Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time, 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha. He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome, everybody, on this Tuesday evening. We have hit a low point in this country where these hearings on Capitol Hill are such a waste of time. They're all made for social media clips to go viral and for, in this case, Democrats to say profoundly insane things in order to get invites onto MSNBC, MS Now, CNN, The View, wherever. It has nothing to do with actually having anything resembling an adult conversation. It just doesn't happen. And now we have one congresswoman who actually, I couldn't believe this when I actually saw it because it's that bad. But this woman gets up in front of Congress and actually asks the ICE director, are you going to hell for your actions as ICE director? This is Representative McCliver of, oh, great, she's from my state, New Jersey, Congresswoman. This is the one who got arrested outside of an ICE facility when she was trying to break into one. I'm demanding access without giving anybody a heads up that she was coming, brought the media with her. And when she was stopped from going in, because that's not the way it works. You can't just walk into federal facilities like this uninvited without anything resembling an appointment, a conversation. Nonetheless, she got arrested, rightly. And then, just like Don Lemon, she's the next Rosa Parks as well, I guess. Anyway, here's cut 13, and this is just childlike at this point, but I can guarantee you she will be on The View by Friday for making statements like this, or in this case, asking questions like this that she had to read from a piece of paper, by the way. So this didn't exactly come from the heart. Cut number 13, go.
Are getting shot. Lions. I've heard my colleagues ask many questions over and over again, and you cannot answer them. So let me ask you some questions that you may be able to answer. Mr. Lyons, do you consider yourself a religious man?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, how do you think Judgment Day will work for you with so much blood on your hands?
I'm not going to entertain that question.
Oh,
ma'am.
okay. Of course not. Do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons?
I'm not going to entertain.
Of course not. How many government?
The gentlelady will suspend.
How
The gentlelady will suspend.
Chairman?
A gentlelady will suspend. As I said, the issues we're debating here are important to ones that members feel deeply about.
Lyons?
Yeah, gentle lady. Anything but. Yeah, when you're axing those questions, those are not questions. That is to get on TV tonight. I can guarantee you she'll be all over liberal media tonight doing a victory dance. Undoubtedly will be on Don Lemon's podcast. No question about it. This is what qualifies now for being a member of Congress, which I understand is as popular as shingles at this point, right? Like gonorrhea, close call as far as what's more popular. But to ask questions like that or axe in this situation, I'm sorry. Do you think you're going to hell? What's Judgment Day going to be like for you? Oh, good Lord. This is a person who never once, after any illegal in this country, killed or severely hurt a legal citizen in this country, ever said one thing in terms of condolences. But that's just the way Congress goes at this point. Meanwhile, here we have John Ossoff. He is a senator from Georgia. This guy is truly unbelievable because he now opposes the SAVE Act, like almost every other Democrat out there. The SAVE Act, of course, is to require voter ID. That now, Fox News poll out today, 84% of Americans support showing an ID when you vote, just like you show your ID before you get on an airplane, just like you show an ID when you have to rent a car, just like you show ID almost in every situation where there's some form of security around. I would think that, a voting location would be one of those places, but no, Democrats are taking the 16 side on an 84-16 issue. Ossoff is one of those people. This guy has said that this is something that will obviously lead to voter repression as far as people, and suppression for that matter, as far as blacks and other minorities not being able to vote. This is a guy who represents Georgia. Now, think about this for a moment. Georgia passed the Voting Integrity Act in 2021. And what that was is kind of a version of the SAVE Act, which says that, you do have to show ID when you vote. And Democrats called it Jim Crow 2.0, starting with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And Ossoff echoed their sentiments at the time. What happened since then in Georgia? We have had record turnout for every election that has happened in the Peach State ever since. Not one black voter has come forward to run to CNN or MS Now, or The View, which they would do in this situation if, for whatever reason, they felt it was difficult for them to vote under this new law. Overwhelmingly, people in Georgia like the new law. Ossoff is not one of them. Now, here's the fun part. Ossoff had a campaign rally recently because he's running for Senate. And you'll never guess what you'll need to get into John Ossoff's rallies. Starts with an I and ends with a D. This is cut number 8. Go.
And not for me, apparently for Dems. Critics are calling out Democrat Senator John Ossoff for asking campaign event goers to show government ID at the door. There are a lot of pictures of this going on. But he doesn't want to require the same thing for federal elections. And last year, when the SAVE Act passed the House, Ossoff released this statement, quote, "This is a nakedly partisan, totally unworkable, bad faith bill cynically intended to disenfranchise millions of eligible voters," end of quote.
Harris Faulkner on Fox bringing the receipts. Yeah. So, all right, Ossoff, you shouldn't ask anybody to show their ID when they go to vote, except when you want to get into one of my rallies. Then you better have it ready. No question about it. And I love Wesley Hunt. I played him on the show yesterday, congressman from Texas, who was able to show on the House floor not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 6 forms of ID that he currently has on his person. And making the point, and Wesley is a black guy, that it's not hard for any race to get an ID in this country, yet Democrats treating their voters as insultingly as you possibly can by saying that, it's harder for blacks to get ID than any other race. Why is that exactly? Are they not smart people? Are they not equal? Because of course they are. And of course, almost, and here's the fun part, every poll I've seen, more than 7 in 10 blacks believe that you need voter ID in order to vote. So even the very people that Democrats say they are protecting in this situation, that is not happening here, obviously, in terms of Democratic sentiment among black voters. And this is why the Democratic Party is bleeding black voters more and more. The candidates like Donald Trump getting more of the black vote in 2024 than any Republican presidential candidate since 1972. That is 54 years ago. Nixon, who knew? Big with the black population. Well, again, that was a blowout of an election like we've never seen in 72, at least until 84. That may have been a little skewed as far as that number. But yeah, this is why more and more people are leaving the black party, because they are taken for granted. The Democratic Party just wants their votes every 4 years and otherwise treats them like children who need to be taken care of in situations, even when it comes to just getting a simple thing like an ID. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren, oh, she's a peach, isn't she? The person who lied about her very existence, her ID. What does it say on it? Polka? Last name Hannes? No, of course not. But here she is, and this is great, because she is asked about voter ID and gives the most condescending, lecturing answer that you would actually expect from a former professor. Imagine going to that school. Elizabeth Warren on voter ID. Cut number 1, go.
The SAVE Act is expected to be brought this week to the floor for a vote. Do you support voter ID for elections?
Well, it depends on what you mean by voter ID. When you want to say that everyone has to produce a birth certificate, including women whose married names are not on their birth certificates, that creates a real problem for me.
Well, isn't that just one of the first steps in getting married, is getting a new ID?
Actually, it's not getting a new birth certificate, because part of what the SAVE Act does is it says most driver's licenses around the country won't work as an ID, and that creates a terrible problem.
But you need an ID to do just about anything in America. Shouldn't you need one to vote in elections?
You don't need a birth certificate. I hope you know that.
Thank you.
I hope you know that. Oh, my goodness gracious. So you're telling me that every person that gets married in this country, right, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that get married in this country every year, if not more, therefore, they can't change their name. Let's say they take their husband's name. That's an impossible thing to do, because I haven't heard anybody complain about this ever as far as that process is concerned. So if this is the argument that Democrats are taking, again, whether it's blacks, whether it's women, I'm sure most women hear that and say, what are you talking about? It's pretty easy for me to change my name and get another ID. What are you talking about? Elizabeth Warren, who, again, lied on a law application by saying that she is an Indian American when DNA tests showed that she had 1/164th Indian blood in her system, and then actually went on social media to say, see, this proves that I was right. All right, maybe we should ask somebody else like Dick Durbin, who has been in the Senate since Lincoln, I believe. He represents Lincoln State, Illinois. And here he is talking about all the obstacles that Republicans are trying to create by passing the SAFE Act. This is cut number 2. Go.
The SAVE Act is expected to be brought to the floor for a vote this week. What are your thoughts on that? Are you going to support the SAVE Act?
Not at all. It's a terrible idea. This notion that we want to put more obstacles in the paths of voters is just what Donald Trump wants. Fewer people voting. I want every legal citizen in America to be able to vote without obstacles.
Oh, okay. So what is the obstacle exactly? So I can go into any voting location and just say I am who I am? Like, hi, I'm McLovin. Can I vote? Hi, I'm Don Mattingly. Can I vote? Is that what we're looking at here? Again, I cannot believe they're going to die on this hill, but apparently they're certainly going to give it their best effort, no question about it. Hey, let's have a little fun before we go to break, shall we? And this is, that was good journalism that I just heard here as far as the questioning, particularly of Elizabeth Warren, with that reporter following up, challenging her in a very professional and polite way. And instead of just absorbing what Warren was saying, just swallowing it, like when you throw up food to seagulls at the beach, just like, all right, whatever you say, I'll eat it. Whatever this is, I don't care. That's what most reporters do. But that reporter was excellent in terms of following up with Warren and asking very common sense, germane, relevant questions in a very respectful way. Now, here's Bill Maher, the voice of reason on the Democratic side of the ledger, not named John Fetterman, talking about the rules of journalism. As somebody who covers media, this is something near and dear to my heart, and it is 1,000% true. This is cut number 14. Go.
I thought as a public service, since it's so hard to find reliable news these days, tonight I would provide a few rules of thumb for trying to follow the news in our modern age. Starting with, if the headlines in your preferred news outlet routinely feature words like shreds, destroys, pummels, bashes, your outlet is a partisan piece of shit. Either that or you're reading a Batman comic.
Well,
ditto with obliterates, roasts, annihilates, and owns. You're supposed to be a source for information, not Nikki Glaser at the Tom Brady roast. Two.
It does sound like a Batman comic, doesn't it? All those words they would have in the bubbles as Batman was pummeling somebody back in the old days, well before Michael Keaton, Christian Bale. Who else played Batman? Val Kilmer did. That was the third part between Michael Keaton and, George Clooney. He had those nipples, right? The nipples on the, that wasn't good. And then Batman went away for a while, and then Christian Bale obviously revived it and did so in a perfect way with some great villains, by the way, in those, including the late, great Heath Ledger as the Joker. If you've not seen The Dark Knight, top 5 movie of mine all time, just saying, rent it tonight if you are not watching the Olympics, which we're going to talk about next on the Joe Concha Show. Please do stick around.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
And welcome back, everybody. So on this Wednesday night, you got to hear this, because I heard this, and I've heard some crazy things over the last, couple of weeks, certainly since Donald Trump came into the mainstream of politics nearly 11 years ago. But this thing is incredible, and it comes from a former congressman from New York. I never heard of him, but fine. Apparently he represented at least a district in the state of New York. His name is Charles Barron, and here he is bragging. All right, this is going to be cut number 10, guys. Bragging about how he's happy that his district lost so many white people, as if like that's some sort of accomplishment, because that's not racist or anything. This is cut number 10. Go.
I have the distinct honor to be able to come before you and say I actually lost white population in my community. I lost them. They left. I didn't ask them why. They left. So if you see 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 whites in my neighborhood, they're passing through.
Please, just for a moment, try to imagine any Republican / MAGA /Trump supporter / anybody pro-Trump in Congress saying that about black people, Asian people, any minority, anybody. It doesn't matter. If you see a couple of black people wandering around my district, well, maybe they didn't get the memo. Proud that you lost a certain part of your population, and then the crowd there applauds? Where was that? The View? What a joke. How horrible. That is totally racist. I got nothing more to say about this. I got a lot more to say when you come back. Please do come back. This is the Joe Concha Show. Please do stick around. Back with more in a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So there seems to be a disconnect as far as the perception on how difficult or not difficult it is to get an ID in this country, specifically as it pertains to voting when you need a voter ID to vote in this country. I've shared these stats with you before. Fox News poll just out this week. 84% of Americans believe that you should have an ID on you, a voter ID, in order to vote. 84%. You can't get 84% of people in this country to agree on what time it is, let alone agree on any issue. That this one apparently is supposedly controversial. Well, we found a great clip of a man on the street interview as far as a guy asking white people about why it's so difficult for black people to obtain an ID to vote. And then black people talking about how difficult they believe, or not so difficult, it is for them to actually get an ID. And this is as striking and as perfect in terms of a disconnect on one issue as you will ever see. And the best part about it is that the people that apparently are being impacted the most say that the problem ain't a problem. This is cut number one. Go.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes. Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, an ID.
Oh, that is so perfect. That is everything. I mean, yeah, it's not hard. It really isn't. And we heard Kamala Harris just a couple of years ago talking about how it's so hard for black people to get IDs because they live in rural areas where there may not be like a FedEx Kinko's around, as if that's needed in order to get the proper tools, I guess, to create an ID. I can't even get my head around exactly what the argument was. Then again, it is Kamala Harris, the human Chernobyl. But Sunny Hostin, she had a very, very interesting take because she's not racist or anything as well. And the same person, Sunny Hostin of ABC News and The View, once argued that it is racist if you think that people that come to this country, legally or not, should be required to speak English. That is something that she says is absolutely racist, and how dare you say that? But now, she said on The View today that, well, maybe if you want to understand Bad Bunny, for example, at the Super Bowl during a halftime, that not a lot of people like, considering that it lost 39% of the audience that was tuned in for the Super Bowl. In other words, people literally changed their channels, nearly 4 in 10. Think about that. before I go off on a tangent, here is Sonny Hostin at cut number 6, talking about how, hey, if you want to live in America, you better learn how to speak Spanish. Really, cut 6, go.
You know, I think what's so interesting to me is, you know, this country seems to be one of the only countries in the world that is so proud of being monolingual and not being able to communicate in more than one language. And the fact of the matter is, in about 20 years, multi-ethnic people will be the majority in this country. So if you don't understand Spanish, maybe start taking a little Duolingo course.
Oh, good Lord. So again, require people to come into the country to speak English because this is an English-speaking country. That's racist. But now, if you don't speak Spanish, well, maybe you should take a Duolingo course and just accept the fact that this will be a minority country one day and you better conform. If that isn't hypocrisy, I'm not sure exactly what is. Meanwhile, a little curveball here for you, Matt. I know I gave you a certain list of sound bites I wanted to play, but I failed to find this one, so please get ready. Cut number 3. This is Harry Enton on CNN reading off how voting and voter ID is not something that is remotely controversial in this country, whether you're talking by race or by party. Everybody basically wants this. This is CNN saying this. Cut number 3, go.
The racial breakdown? Okay, what's the racial breakdown on this, right? Because I think a lot of people make the argument that people of color, non-white Americans, have a harder time procuring a photo ID to vote. But even here, take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
And we should all agree with Nicki Minaj. Again, 85% of whites, 82% of blacks, 76% of Latinos say, yep, you should have a voter ID to vote. And yet Democrats up on Capitol Hill are screaming their heads off about how this will suppress the vote and how this is racist. Oh, my goodness. And you know what? They may succeed because in the end, we have this thing called a filibuster. And unless you get 60 votes in the Senate, and there are only 53 Republicans in the Senate, and there aren't enough, or at least they're being coward, bullied, whatever you want to call it, Democrats that will vote on something this common sense, even those that are in swing states where this may actually work against them. The votes aren't there unless the filibuster is blown up by John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, and he does not seem very enthusiastic about doing that right now. And I get the reasons why you don't want to, because this opens up a whole Pandora's box that if and when Democrats take back power, and that will happen eventually, may happen sooner, may happen later. Point is that once that happens, the things that they will do to transform this country permanently to make it a one-party country, it's scary, but they're going to do it anyway, is the argument that Trump is making. So why not just do this now to pass the things that we need to protect, in this case, voting and integrity around voting? I get the argument. I'm not crazy about it. But again, if this is the alternative, Democrats are going to do it anyway, then you might as well just go ahead and do it anyway. Let's get to cut number 4, shall we? Because, we've now seen a couple of news reports about Trump in 2006 telling a Palm Beach, Florida police chief about Jeffrey Epstein and how, thank God you're doing something about this guy because we all know what's happening there. All right. And who didn't? I mean, Epstein was, convicted only a couple of years later. We then have Democrats who have taken money from Epstein after the fact, who've gone to parties after the fact, after he was convicted. And here we have hearings over and over again trying to make this about Trump. Anyway, here's a CBS News report vindicating Trump once and for all, as if we knew already that he already had nothing to do with Epstein in terms of pedophilia or anything nefarious. But when the mainstream media is now reporting this, this is not a good thing for Democrats who put all their chips into the middle of the table to try to connect Trump with Epstein and pedophilia. Cut number 4, go.
Newly surfaced record in the Epstein files alleges Trump told a Palm Beach police chief 20 years ago about Epstein, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." And that he was around Epstein once when teenagers were present, but got the hell out of there.
Got the hell out of there. And, oh, by the way, kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago.
This is the dumbest story. It has taken up so many news cycles. It's almost as bad as Russia and collusion and Trump. Over and over again, we've been hearing about this because they thought, okay, this is the thing that's finally going to take down Trump. Nope, not happening. And now even we're getting these reports like from CBS News, like from ABC News, saying that Trump said, thank God you did something about Epstein. There were teenagers. And when the minute I heard what was going on, I got the hell out of there. And oh, by the way, kicked Epstein out of his own club as well. Game, set, match on that front. Oh, meanwhile, Gavin Newsom, who may very well be the 47th president of the United States, you laugh, could happen. I don't think he has a 50-50 shot, but if you gave me like chances around 40%, yeah, I could see it. The guy can lie as well as anyone. And Charlie Kirk once warned us about Gavin Newsom. Charlie interviewed Gavin about a year ago. Let's see, a year ago today, actually, not a year ago today, but it was late February, early March. And he warned afterwards, he says, look, this is a shape shifter. This is a lizard person. However, you should be very afraid of him because he could lie on a dime and actually sound convincing in doing it. You know, the media is going to gobble up everything that he offers up, and they're going to ignore his record in California, which, again, say it with me, lather, rinse, repeat, highest unemployment in the country, highest poverty rate in the country, highest homeless rate in the country, highest income taxes in the country. Despite having climate and coast, this is a place that people are fleeing in droves out of California to places like Ron DeSantis' Florida or Greg Abbott's Texas or Tennessee, South Carolina, Arizona. Idaho is seeing a big population jump to the point where they're going to gain an electoral college vote. Idaho, which I'm going there in a couple of weeks, and I don't know, I'm not crazy about going there early in February, but I guess people are saying, you know what, we'll put up with the cold as long as we live in a place where we feel like we're free and our taxes aren't being driven through the roof, where we see so little return on investment. Anyway, here is Governor Newsom talking about how people are scared to death of Trump. He's so sick to watch it. You want to talk about a cheesy performance artist, the kind you would see not even on any film at 3 o'clock in the morning on Skinamax. That's Gavin Newsom, and this is Cut 5. Go.
You've seen it across the board. People are scared to death of this guy. And it's the appalling silence. It's the complicity. You're seeing the most successful, wealthiest people scared to death of this guy. It makes me sick. Is it worth it to you to watch this 249 years just vanish in real time?
You know what the funny thing about that clip is that Gavin Newsom's talking about how the rights of Americans are being taken away. 249 years of having a constitutional republic. This is the same person who shut down his state longer than anyone and took away the rights of more people, especially school children, especially parents, especially businesses, large and small, where they're leaving in droves, as I just mentioned. And he's talking about protecting people's rights. No one trampled on them more, quite like Gavin Newsom, who, again, all those homes burned down in the Palisades, and only 3 have been rebuilt to this point, 13 months later. If he wants to run on, hey, make America California again, MACA, I guess we could call that. No, I don't want California to be America. I want Florida to be America. That'd be nice. Low taxes, well-run, low crime, one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. Yeah, let's make America Florida. I have no problem with that, and you'll get that with J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, and eventually Ron DeSantis, I think, but that's just my humble opinion. Anyway, let's go to Rick Santilli, by the way, because Santilli is on CNBC, all right, which CNBC is a financial channel. They are connected to NBC. There is a liberal slant to it to a certain extent, but there are guys like Joe Kernan, and I think Santilli is just a numbers guy. I think he's just an economic dork, and that's fine. That's what you want on a financial network. Well, today, the jobs report came out, and Trump doubled expectations in terms of the jobs that were created. And more importantly, federal jobs continue to drop to its lowest rate, by the way. We have the lowest number of federal employees in this country. Since 1965, we have not seen this sort of number in terms of federal employees, which were created en masse during the Biden administration, which allowed them to pump up the employment numbers and push down the unemployment numbers. So with this going on as far as an A+ jobs report, and the fact that the Dow is still above 50,000, which many thought was so unthinkable just even 10 months ago when it was around 37,000 when the tariff war first began. Here's Santilli on CNBC, mind you, talking about how, hey, if you doubted this president and said that we were headed towards a recession and the economy was going to tank, you were dead wrong. Cut number 8, go.
All these naysayers steeped in politics continue to be negative. That's okay, because 50K says you've all been wrong. You keep from going in the water even though it's very hot outside. I say all the investment gurus out there, jump in the markets in the U.S. because global GDP is going to take a big ramp up and the U.S. is leading the way.
Boom. That's on CNBC. Meanwhile, on Fox Business, all right, which I appear on quite often. Larry Kudlow has a wonderful show there at 4 o'clock Eastern time on there, who also was on WABC in New York. Here they are talking about, hey, you know what? I think we get what's going on with the, hey, you know what? Screw it. Steve Moore, who is also on WABC and a friend of the show, here he is talking about why lowering the federal employment numbers is such a good thing for the economy and why private numbers going up is reversing everything that happened under the Auto Pen administration of 21 to 25. This is cut number 11. Go.
For the last year, private sector employees employment is growing, Maria, and public sector, especially federal jobs, are shrinking. That's exactly what we want to see. Right. We want to see the government shrink and private sector job growth. And by the way, Maria, this is exactly the opposite of what we saw under Biden, where we do these jobs reports every month, and one of the biggest increases in employment was federal hiring, and that's what led to these big deficits.
And that is basically President Trump and wanting to shrink
a reorientation of the economy to private businesses. Yeah.
Ooh, that's an SAT word. I'm going to use that on the show from now on. Thanks so much, Steve. Reorientation. A lot of syllables there. Anyway, things are going well as far as the economy. In fact, you could say that this is one of the best economies we have ever seen as a country. The tariff debt paid off big time and will continue to in 2026, as Trump is now saying that we may hit 100,000 on the Dow before he leaves office. Before you laugh at that, don't bet against this guy, because 50,000 was also laughable, and look where we are now. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
At Planet Fitness, we've got everything you need to get stronger, with best-in-class equipment and free fitness training, so you can give everything you've got. Join today starting at just $15 a month. Planet Fitness, we're all strong on this planet. See Club for details.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Now, we talked about how the Trump economy is taking off, but people are really starting to feel the results, not just with inflation being around 2.5%. And I understand that that still means that prices are going up, just not nearly as fast as, say, 9% under AutoPen, but also with wages going up as well. But little things in the big, beautiful bill, or not so little things in this case, where we have no taxes on tips and no taxes on overtime. Now, remember, the big, beautiful bill passed in 2025, but could not be applied retroactively. So in 2026, this is where people are seeing in their tax returns some rather nice returns as a result of, for instance, no overtime being taxed, as this woman says on social media in a video that has gone viral for all the right reasons. This is cut number 7. Go.
This big, beautiful bill promised no taxes on overtime. My husband works 6 days a week as a machinist at Anheuser-Busch so that I can stay home and raise our 3 kids that are all under 5. Big, beautiful bill just made it so that he did not have to pay taxes on any of that overtime. Our refund is huge this year. Thank you, President Trump. You came through. We just got a fat check coming our way.
That's true. I mean, and you're going to start seeing it if you haven't already seen it. I mean, it's just incredible what this bill will do for not just, you always hear like Republicans are for the rich and they support the rich and they want to help out their rich friends. Big, beautiful bill's got a lot of things in there that, particularly if you're in the service industry, for example, having no tax on overtime or working in the manufacturing industry or any industry for that matter, no tax on overtime and no tax on tips. That's what wins you states like Nevada, where the service industry is everything, heavily unionized, which used to vote automatically and almost robotically Democrat. Now that's going to change moving forward, as it did in 2024. That was a state that Trump captured, of course, and then manufacturing, huge in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan. Again, you could capture Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, pick off Georgia and North Carolina. I don't care who's running on the Republican side, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, that's your 47th president and vice president. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. We're back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time here in New York on WABC and across the country, wherever they play this awesome show. Thanks for tuning in. 2 words for you as I go bye-bye, and that is bye-bye.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.